Done.
Oh,
Ooh, look at that paper.
is the paper screen sharing properly? No monitor. Kidding. Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty small.
Yeah, I was um okay, I just wanted to make sure it's the right screen share. Okay, I think before actually the fun stuff, we should, since this paper is not that long, let's spend a few minutes. Does anyone have thoughts? Has anyone used it? Do we just use it right now? Should we have it? Oh shit, actually I did have it summarized on paper. I did this 2 minutes ago. We can check its summary. But does anyone have thoughts? Has anyone played with it? Has anyone seen anything fun? Paper's not that long. Give it like 2 minutes, but yeah. Anyone wanna chime in, share thoughts, expectations? Is this what people expected? Can we do a quick test? We can do a quick test. I'll switch to my screen share actually real quick.
You can also use the
Uh,
playground.
yeah, I mean, I actually fucked the playground. I think it's a really bad experience by OpenAI. You get like 10 queries and then it forces you to log in via Hugging Face. I was quite annoyed. Like, guys, come on. Um, anyway, let me share my thing. So, okay, I mean Together hosted. A bunch of people hosted. Kernel is hosting it. If you guys haven't seen Kernel Lab, they're hosting it, but I can't upload a PDF, so I'm cooked. But anyway, it's being hosted here. I have it running on Olama. Actually, let me share my whole. Let's do it on Olama just to see. Uh, Olama run this. It's pretty fast. This is the 20B. I have like a last gen MacBook is kind of fast. But if you want real fast, oh yeah, Simon put out fun stuff, artificial analysis. But yeah, I asked it to summarize its own paper. Guess what? It can summarize its paper. Tell me how to brew coffee. That's a great recipe. This is it running locally on a MacBook. This is thinking tokens. Pretty fast, It's pretty small. I guess I'm sure everyone here basically knows what the models are, but there's a 20B that has 3B active parameters, meaning, he's kind of quick. And then there's a 120B with 20B active parameters. They pick these sizes very efficiently. This size fits on most consumer hardware. Like, my laptop can run this pretty fine. It's pretty good. The other one can neatly fit onto one H100. Simon Willison did some fun takes. There's Pelicans. It kind of struggles. It reasons a lot. I think he's not interpreting the best. Basically, he ran it on his old Mac in LM Studio, and he's like thinking high mode took him 5 minutes and 50 seconds to get a Pelican. But this is relevant to your device. Like if you look at he also ran it on Cerebras, and it takes 1 to 2 seconds to get Pelican. His takes were interesting. Not my favorite. Someone gave comments on it in Discord. I don't think I've seen a 20 to 3 yet. Is there a Quen of similar size? Quen has really small ones. Quen has the 30B3 active and one active, right? Harmony is interesting. Very curious why OpenAI would even release the open models. I mean, why not, right? The PR thing. It's also like DeepSeek of the West. Also maybe they just want to. Noam Brown tweeted it, and then these are the people if you're interested. These are the amazing people that make it work. Go check them out. None of them had any crazy tweets. Artificial analysis. How would I rate this? Maybe a lot of people like there's mixed perception, right? I don't want to spew my thoughts on people. I think it should be more for discussion. I think they're good. I talked to someone yesterday from OpenAI for like an hour. I asked him basically like, what's your internal response? Are you guys happy with the release? Like, are you happy with what people think of it? And he's like, yeah, people are pretty happy, like they're internally pretty happy with the response. There's the whole side of like, okay, I know the news research people are really shitting on it. It's over safety. They won't do this, they won't do that. They're hating it. Some people say it only does coding and math and you can't talk to it. Going back to my example, am I sharing my full desktop? What am I sharing? Yeah, going back to my example, I think you can talk to this model just fine. Like I asked it how to make coffee. It's pretty smart here, good ratios, water temperatures. Like, it can do stuff. It's got native tool calling. But yeah, you can run it locally. It's pretty fast. Um, I think they're both pretty good. It's like kind of 03, 04 mini level. I asked it, yeah, it loves tables. It really likes structured output formats. This is what is it? This is together summarizing itself. Yeah, but anyway, let's get back into the paper. If anyone else has thoughts, comments on using it or fun takes that people have seen, that would be interesting. The Harmony chat template is very hackable. So interesting thing they note about this chat template, there's like hierarchy in it. So hierarchy. Um, Basically it's actually slightly more there's a hierarchy to what can be hacked. Yeah, it's fully open source, Apache 2. Um, Pretty good model. Very, very optimized to run on consumer hardware. Um, One interesting thing in the model card is that uh, it's a little bit more susceptible to jailbreaking and being prompt injected compared to O4 Mini, but it kind of really sits in that size. Both the 120 and 20 push the frontier for their size, but aren't the best overall in absolute terms. Would definitely be interested in seeing how it does in tool calling. Yeah, it's really good at tool calling, agentic stuff, coding. Um, it is a reasoning model. They're both MOEs. What else is there in this? It's not the best overall in absolute terms. Yeah, like some of the stuff, even in their like safety bullshit, is they note how they can jailbreak it and they really care about like bio warfare and chemical issues. And they're like, we can jailbreak it in these domains. But honestly, it's not that bad. We can still release it because you like Quen and DeepSeek are at the same frontier and you can jailbreak those too. So, there's not much of a difference to us keeping it like locked out if you can already do it with other stuff. One of the very interesting things, it's text only, text to text, text input, right? There's no multimodality. And talking to someone from OpenAI yesterday, this was a safety decision. It's a safety risk for them to have multimodality in here. So they took out image input. Could you edit yourself? Yes. Would that really fuck with it and make it a Frankenstein model? Probably, right? It's very optimized for the hardware it fits on. Like they do some fancy 4-bit quantization to make it fit on one H100. You want to add some experts for multimodality? Well, you're kind of fucking. But yeah, interesting little takes, right? Um, yeah. Okay, back to paper. Um, Interesting. They're shilling this responses API, not completions API, but yeah, they have a new Harmony um tokenizer and all this stuff. We'll dig into that later too. The guy at OpenAI was like, "Oh, it's kind of a big deal because we've been using this Harmony thing internally ever since GPT-3, and like they put a lot of effort into it, and it's nice that they're open sourcing it." Safety, we need the safety bullshit. Their safety is fundamental. They talk a lot about the safety stuff, which is kind of cool. This is a model card, not a system card. If you guys remember the other models, they get system cards. This is a fucking model card. Why? Because they think so. I don't remember why. Um, because the GPT-OSS will be used as part of wider range of systems created and maintained by a wide range of stakeholders, they follow this by default. They can implement their own decisions about how they keep these. Yeah, so it's a fucking model card, not a system card. The other thing there, now they show the full chain of thought. I have juicy leaks on that too. I think we'll get there in a second. Shit, sorry, Muchi. Um, yes, fine tuning it was a breeze, made a fine tune yesterday. Yeah, so they put out a cookbook on fine tuning with Hugging Face. I don't know if Eugene Chia is in here. If Pacha is here, Eugene Chia was saying that they make it very hard to fine tune this thing. I don't know if I echo that claim or can verify it, but he said, I don't know, he was pulling numbers out his ass. He's like, they've trained this thing on 60 trillion tokens. Uh, Therefore, you have to do a high learning rate and it's not stable. I couldn't find those numbers anywhere. I haven't seen this sentiment echoed, but I will, I'll view the Chacha bullshit. You can ask him in Discord. But they can fine tune it very well. In the model card, they basically jailbreak it quite a few times. They run a lot of these safety things. Oh yeah, Unsloth has a version for it. It makes sense safety stuff. Yeah, I mean safety stuff is huge. Okay, bio and chemical capability, cyber capability, and AI self-improvement. They basically look at a lot. These are the questions they want to ask, right? Could adversarial actors fine-tune GPT-OSS 120B to reach high capability in the biological and chemical or cyber domains? And for these two categories, they have this group, SAG, the OpenAI Safety Advisory Group. They use their robust fine-tuning and leverage OpenAI's field-leading training stack. I like how they like to call themselves field leading. They have the leading safety stack. Yes, they've given themselves this title. It didn't reach high enough capability to be biological or chemical or cyber risk. So, fuck it, we move on and we ship it. Um, do they advance the frontier of biological capabilities in open foundations? No, it won't. It won't be biowarfare if they ship it. Anything new? TBH, not attend the safety stuff. Yeah, no. The paper has fun stuff. The people, like the next sections are great, right? Model architecture, data, training, evals. Uh, it's actually the first time they're confirming, these are MOEs that build on GPT-2 and GPT-3. So the sizes, there's 120B, which is 36 layers. It's technically 116 billion parameters and 5.1B active. Um, the 20B is 24 layers and 20.9 billion total with 3.6 active. It's more of a wider MOE than it is like a deeper one. You can tell this by the number of active experts, right? So I believe there are 4 experts active per token as opposed to 2. That helps with like stability and training, right? You don't have experts overfitting. You don't have like crazy KV spikes. Uh, sorry, KL spikes. What else? Okay. Here's kind of the split. The MLP for these is basically 99%. All of the weights are, in the experts. Very little in attention. Embedding and unembedding is separate, but active parameters very, very small. Checkpoint sizes, this is like the file storage size. This is after they do a fancy 4-bit quant. Um, this is what it would take. So if you want to run it on a phone, like Android phones now have 16 gigs of memory, it just takes 12 gigs or 13 gigs of storage. And then the checkpoint for the big one is, this fits on a USB. It's only 60 gigs, or it could fit on a laptop. They call them, they refer to the models as the 120 and 20B, even though they're slightly off. I'm gonna check chat real quick. What was Kimmy? Less experts, more heads, or the inverse, I forget. Kimmy did less attention heads and a bunch more experts. It's very sparse, and these are also very sparse. But yeah, they basically they adapt a very vanilla architecture. It's similar to an off-the-shelf DeepSeek or Kimi, and they just scale it up. If interesting if OpenAI is following the trend. Yeah, it's very off the shelf. And a lot of this is stability and stuff too. Okay, residual dimension of this. Okay, I think we can get into some of these specifics later, but we can look at them now. Each MOE block has a fixed number of experts, 128 for the big one and 32 for the little one. Standard linear routers, the top 4 experts. Here they do top 4, whereas I think DeepSeek and potentially Kimi did top 2. This helps with, stability and stuff like that. Less attention heads. That was a big take from Kimi. Eugene, you wanna share?
Oh, I had a quick question for you, Vipu, and anyone else on the call. What is the implication of the residual stream? Like, why is it the most important thing to highlight to be first in the architecture paragraph section?
Someone else answer. I have an answer, but I want someone else to answer. Why do we care about residual stream dimension? I'm gonna let this question marinate. But also, like, I think they were just putting out facts. Someone think about this, right? It'll get your juices flowing. Or you go take this section, paste it in ChatGPT. We'll come back to the architecture stuff in a bit, and someone else get a good answer for this. Whether you wanna share it in chat, don't residuals make losses smoother? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Someone find out. It'll be fun little learning exercise. Yeah, sorry, Eugene. But we'll get to it soon. Top four experts, that's interesting. That helps with a bit of stability. Swiglu, this is cool. Noam Shazir making this is Noam Shazir, right? I'm pretty sure this is Noam Shazir, but Noam Shazir always having impact. Um, Banded window and fully dense patterns. So sliding window sort of, this is built on sliding window attention. They have banded window with the bandwidth of 128. That basically helps efficient attention scale in blocks of 128 linearly as opposed to super quadratic. Each layer has 64 query heads of dimension 64 and uses group query attention. DeepSeek is in play here, 64 query heads. I think this is a Kimi style, cut half the attention heads. Also, Eugene, your hand is still up. Do we want to go back or? Okay, keep going, keep going. 8 key value heads. They use rope. The news boy was very, very salty. Technium was like giving so much hate to Sam Altman, and we made rope and yarn and this, and you don't cite us, and I bet you still won't cite us. Guess what, bro? Just wait. They fucking cited you. They even cited you in the website and not just the paper. You're like one of the 5 citations. I don't know why he was being all salty about not getting cited when cited. But yeah, they use rope. Extend contents of dense layers to 132K using yarn. Uh, Technium does love to hate on OpenAI. What's the other guy? Karan is hating deep on how safety slapped and useless it is, and it's not a base model in some group chats, but that's news people. They're doing fun stuff, hopefully. Okay, that's about all we get on architecture. Not much, but this shows us a lot. It's basically vanilla MOE, slap in a bit of DeepSeek, group query attention, Swiglu, 4 experts, take some Kimi notes, and scale up. And okay, I will
Hey,
take a
Vivu, could I ask a quick question? So with the MOE, I'm like, I don't know very much at all about mixture of experts, besides the basics. So there's a lot of like implicit decisions here. Like, okay, you have a lot of like seeming like a pretty high number of experts, and then they're taking top 4, they're using the router projection to, sort of mix the outputs for 4. And then like Swiglu is matters for some reason. Um, I, how does one like learn about all these decisions?
Well, if you want to learn, there's only so many open MOE models and papers, and there's like 5, you can read them. Or I can give you a 2-minute TLDR, right? So basically there's a sparsity ratio of how sparse you want models to do. I think Kimi K2 plotted token and like model sample efficiency. And they basically show if you want optimal performance, you want more experts you want more experts and you want to be more sparse, and that will lead to better performance overall. So that's kind of where some of these decisions come in. The amount of attention heads, they also showed cutting attention heads in half at long context gives you like half the KV cache. So you're kind of twice as efficient, right? So you use half the compute at long context, and then you have to do something to make up for cutting half your attention heads. But yeah, some of the basic TLDR is you want sparsity, so you want a lot of experts. So you have a lot of experts, but you make them sparse, only a few activate. There's best practices to how many you want to activate, right? Do you want 2? Do you want 4? Do you want 1? Do you want 16? Early DeepSeek work did a lot of this open MOE research. Number of experts, like it helps being stable when you do a little bit more, right? So 1 and 2 were a thing, but there's rumors around what GPT-4 architecture are and stuff and how many were active. But yeah, going from 2 to 4, you have a little bit more stability, not as much overfitting for one expert. Same thing with like sliding window attention and bandwidth, uh, banded window attention patterns. Um, Llama 4 made a change mid-train run with their version of doing this, and there's lessons to take away from that. I'm pretty sure I'm missing some. GQA is pretty standard now, but that's kind of how one you could learn, or two you could just TLDR these 10 papers into best practices. Now, another thing is also for like, how do you determine what size model you have and what's the recipe there? Like, do you want to train a small model or a big model and distill it down and all this sparsity stuff? One of my things that I shared in Discord that I'll actually pull up right now was this comparison of this to small LM v3 from Hugging Face. So the note here is that they basically both have the same training GPU hours. So let me find this little thing I shared here. So if we scroll down to our paper, it says that the compute used was, where is this one second? Small LM. Okay, here, this is my little comparison. So here in this paper for OpenAI, they say that they took 2 million H100 hours for the 120B and 200,000 H100 hours for the 20B. And we can see the performance of it, right? With these 200,000 H100 hours, OpenAI could get O3 mini level performance. Hugging Face, like a few months ago, they trained small LM v3 on 48 nodes of 8 H100s for 24 days. They call this 220,000 H100 hours, right? So similar amount of compute used. What was the performance they got? And they did distillation, by the way. They did like a hybrid reasoner with distillation, which should be more sample efficient. Their 3B performs better than other 3Bs, but slightly worse than 4Bs. So like they spent a similar amount of compute hours of GPUs training from scratch as OpenAI did. OpenAI really just cooked them here. But it's like this is not to shit on Hugging Face. Their thing is more open, right? Open data set, open code, open paper, open everything, right? It's a learning experiment. But at the same time, I know the OpenAI train run kicked off at the same time, and they basically cooked this. So, sure, they're of different sizes. Like this 3B runs more effectively. It can fit on a small phone on edge, but in the same compute budget, OpenAI could really cook, right? They could take the same amount of compute and shit out in O3 mini, O4 mini style model, whereas Hugging Face could not do any of this. But when your main question was basically how do you determine what's best practice for stuff like this? Going back to the paper, it's just that there's only a few papers, right? Like read Magistral, read small MP3, read some of the early DeepSeek stuff, read Kimi, and you start to see the trade-offs there. Also, like I'm just yapping, I'm speculating here. Like maybe there's a better ratio, but that's how I would come to these conclusions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. That's a great answer. Thank you.
Sicko. Couldn't the difference be entirely attributed to the size difference in architecture? Yeah, it could. Architecture size difference for a thing. At the end of the day, they're both pretty small edge models that run on device. You can also compare this to like Mistral Small, which is a 20B model. But yeah, nothing is apples to apple. They are different. Like 3B and 20B are in different ball games, yes. But you have to remember, this is a 20B that's very sparse MOE. So it's a 20B with 3B active parameters. Um, Someone fact check me here, but is the small LM v3 dense? Or is it an MOE? It might be dense. But like speed and size wise, I can't check right now. Someone else check. But anyway, it's just for comparison of what you do with a compute budget, right? Like they both took a lot of GPU hours, and you could have also shot this out. Okay, I'm gonna continue through like halfway through, and this is like the point of this discussion, this paper club. Like yap in whenever, ask questions. It's not that deep. There's not that much in here. Like the rest of this is just let's look at safety stuff. Let's see how stuff is. Dense models are basically out of fashion, apparently. Not necessarily. Dense models are still cool. There's trade-offs for doing dense versus MOE. Like, frankly, for this, I'm not going to run it on my iPhone. I don't have 16 gigs of RAM on my iPhone to spare. 3B, I do. Apple Foundation models can do this very well. But they do very cool quantization stuff here to make it very, very efficient. That's the next section here. Yeah, I think dense models still have their place, right? MOEs are great for efficient serving, like when you're a company trying to serve at scale. But yeah, the VRAM poor will always need us. Quen updated their 4B dense today. I believe they updated their little model like an hour ago. Okay, what else? Attention. They have some fancy attention clipping here. Continue performance. Okay, tokenizer. We'll look into this in a bit. They open source their Harmony chat format and they talk about it here. Why are top 4 experts more stable? Think about it as if you have 2 experts or 1 expert active. Like when you have 16 total experts and you only have 1 active, sometimes that expert will get a lot of bias and preference, right? So like most tokens will really prefer 1 expert. And now in your training, you have to always send stuff to that expert, and they're not equally being used, right? And you don't also want to force them to equally just split individual experts. You want a regime in which the right expert picks the right task that, it kind of evens out. But yeah, you want a lot and you want 2 to 4, basically. It helps with training stability. You can read the llama stuff about this or llama analysis stuff about this. Okay, pre-training. There's people that are saying like this model feels like it's only trained on synthetic data entirely, and they don't verify any of this. People are guessing numbers, but they also don't say any of this. We'll look into tokenizer stuff later. If you have questions, bring it up now. Text-only data set with trillions of tokens with a focus on STEM, coding, general knowledge. Very interesting. They filter the data that has harmful content, especially around biosecurity and chemical warfare and stuff. It's like interesting to see what if you just do the opposite, right? Just train in bio warfare. And they actually do. Some of their safety testing here is uh, models are very easy to jailbreak. Like one of my favorite like funny things is whenever Anthropic does some fun mech interp stuff, they're always like, oh, by the way, we jailbreak OpenAI models and like we get them to spew super hateful, like malicious stuff. And even OpenAI knows this. Like you can just jailbreak this out of them. And they do it. They do it in this paper too. They're like, yeah, we jailbreak it. We make it like a bio warfare. But here they go off so deep. Like they basically have a section where they're like, yeah, we train it with we jailbreak it to be bio warfare and we set up like an environment where like okay we have experts that are trying to like make bio warfare and see if it can like help them kill the earth. Yeah. And we'll get into that in a second. Okay, my favorite numbers, they use this, they trained the big one for 2.1 million H100 hours and the small one for 10x fewer, so 200,000 H100 hours. If you do the quick math is that you can get H100s for like $1.50 to 200 an hour to $2 an hour. So let's say you take $2 an hour and you have 200,000 H100 hours, this costs in the order of under a million. And then you have scale of compute, and of course you have experiments and stuff, but this thing is not that expensive to press the final train run number on. You can work backwards on the number of compute to MOE to active parameters to how many tokens they roughly could have trained on, but you don't know if this includes like how much of their RL stuff. They do say that this is the same native RL used in O3, which is interesting. And then on the upper end, the big one is, on the order of magnitude, like, 10x that. So 4 mil, 5 mil. It's not crazy expensive. Sam Altman tweeted, this is billions of dollars research. Sam Altman. Someone find tweet or I'll find tweet. I'll find tweet. Let's find tweet. Struggling to find tweet OSS. Maybe I'm hallucinating the tweet or the tweet somewhere. I'll find tweet later. Okay, what else do we need to read in here? This is some of the fun stuff. How can it be fine-tuned using LoRa weights? Just use LoRa, bro. Always use LoRa. The really fun thing here is their quantization is crazy. Post-training for tool use, using similar chain of thought RL techniques to O3. The fun thing with Harmony Tokenizer is it allows for intermediate tool use training. So in the chain of thought, it can use tools and it's trained to use them. That's a section. Personality similar. Oh yeah, so since they use the same RL and chain of thought as O3, it has a very similar personality to their main models. Our training data set is basically code, math, science, and more. What could the more be? A Harmony chat format. So here's what we were talking about earlier. Someone said it's very easy to jailbreak. Actually, before we get there, so Eugene has a question. On always use LoRa, does that include when teaching new information, for example, new semantic IDs? I don't think you need to always use LoRa. You can
No.
use LoRa.
I mean, I'm just using Vibu to minimize my number of failed experiments.
You're the semantic IDs guy. But the fun thing is their quantization is it's like a QLoRa that quantizes and brings performance, right? They do really good 4-bit quant here, but you don't always use LoRa. I think LoRa's have their downsides too. The fun stuff is when you do like LoRa for RL, but LoRa's do have their downsides. Okay,
Yeah, I'll try
Harmony
it
chat.
first. Oh, go for it.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Okay, so they make a clear distinction in role-based hierarchy. So system prompt is always the god tier, right? If you say something in a tool, it will always override with the system prompt, right? Like if your system prompt says never use tools and you give a tool saying use me, I'm a tool, it won't do it. LoRa for RL, yeah, LoRa for RL is a thing. So system greater than developer, greater than user, greater than assistant, greater than tool. Basically, most applications, you don't serve and let your system prompt be overridden, right? But people can change the developer user assistant prompt. But those, even if you say forget your system prompt always has a trained in hierarchy and it's trained to follow this. And then they test this and like see, can we get it to swap? Interesting thing to note here is even though this model is O4 mini level performance, it fails benchmarks on safety jailbreaks a lot more than O4 Mini, which is just interesting. We'll get there in a second. There's also channels now in Harmony format. There's analysis for chain of thought tokens, commentary for function tool calling, and final form answers for people to use. They give a guide on how to do this stuff. Here's performance. I was talking to the guy yesterday from that worked on this, and I was like, these are very, very smooth scaling linear charts. So some of the new stuff is these models have different thinking budgets, like low, medium, and high. And you can specify these. And these are all done via system prompt. It's just a system prompt that says, I can find the paragraph here somewhere, but there's a system prompt that says how much thinking you should do right here. So we train models to support 3 reasoning levels, low, medium, high. These are configured with a system prompt by inserting keywords such as reasoning, pulling low, medium, and high. Increasing the reasoning level will cause the average chain of thought to increase. I'm surprised they could train this in so low because it's such a beautiful like curve, right? Like you tell it to reason for more, guess what? It now reasons for like 2x and performance scales just as much as you would expect it to. Same thing, you tell it to reason for high, performance increases and it reasons for twice as long. I had questions about long context evals. I asked about Eugene's long context translation. If I want to translate a book, will they work on fun stuff like that? Because I want to know effective use of context. One thing they talk about here is like they can get the mini model for math to reason for 20K tokens, and that shows effective context usage. And I was like, yeah, but no, it doesn't really show effective context usage. I want them to translate books. I've instilled it in them. You must translate books end to end. Yeah, that's cool. They do reasoning numbers, agentic tool use. It's trained with its chain of thought to be able to use tools thanks to this Harmony format. And in that, it's trained to understand, hey, you have browsing tools, and here's how to use a search tool. Here's how to use a Python tool. And yeah, you can now add these tools in, and there's a bit of a, adaptation to how to implement it, but that works. Very cool. They do pass at one, no pass like average pooling of 64 shot type stuff. They're doing pass of one. Evals. Eval on reasoning, coding, full use, and additional stuff. Can we get reasoning tokens with stuff? Yes, you can. You get reasoning tokens. The interesting thing here is that reasoning tokens are fully displayed. So right here it says the GPT-OSS models are strong at math in particular, which is why I believe they can use their chain of thoughts effectively. GPT-OSS 20B uses over 20,000 chain of thoughts per problem on an average of AIME. More knowledge related tasks such as GPQA, the small one lags behind. Agent tasks, they test all the stuff. I think since we only have 20 minutes, I'm not gonna sit here and go through benchmarks. The TLDRs, it's all form anyway. Test time scaling. Longer chain of thoughts provide higher accuracy as a relatively large increase in final response length, latency, and cost. I still like this chart. I'm impressed that it just scales. Maybe that's just my 2IQ monkey brain thinking this wouldn't be so smooth, but very smooth. Health performance. They do a lot of health testing. I checked this guy. He's the head of medical or something at Hugging Face. Like proper MD, but runs medical stuff at Hugging Face. They work with him. They work with individual doctors. Like I was asking, like, you work with like providers, hospitals. What's the vibe here? No, they work with like individual doctors to formulate this stuff. Basically, they want like a big, okay, this is like a health model, but also guess what? Don't use it for health. We're not liable. It's not good enough. They specifically say like it. Coming back here to chain of thought, actually though, with the chain of thought tokens, one thing that they mention is they give you the full chain of thought, right? This is the first time that we can see explicit chain of thought reasoning from an OpenAI model. Before they used to summarize it. And I was talking to the guy quite a bit about this. And I was like, you know, what does this imply? Since normally in their chat apps, they summarize it, right? They summarize the chain of thought and tell you what the model is doing. And here they note stuff like, okay, the internal chain of thought monologue is really a scratch pad for the model. And they're explicitly like, don't share it to your users. Don't give out the chain of thought because it's a bad experience. Sometimes the model, like you ask it a math question and it adds a fucking poem in there. Or you ask it for a poem and it adds a math like equation in there. And you ask it to reason and it swaps languages, or you ask it something and it writes random code where it shouldn't. So it's really like exploratory. And it's not the best experience to just give all this out. And then I asked them, I was like, you guys have a summarizer classifier. And I was like, would you guys put out a model like Llama Guard or Purple Llama that Meta does to, do some of this classification sort of filtration? And he's like, yeah, soon, so leaks soon there will be something like that if it's a thing. But right now he's like, you guys figure it out. You have the whole chain of thought. Okay, continuing on paper. Multilingual performance, MMMU. I think I skipped some stuff. Health performance, yeah, it's pretty good on health stuff. Numbers, guys. Multilingual, we use MMMU. We find the big one comes close to O4 mini high. The small one lags behind slightly. None of this stuff was crazy. Unless anyone wants to dive into any of these, humanity last exam. The thing they always note is like you compare it to 4.0, a non-reasoning model, and it blows out of the water. Those get like 0% on HLE. Yeah, these are all benchmarks. Health bench, they care a lot about health. Blood forces, safety testing. Oh, this is the fun shit. I think we can take a little bit of a pause here though before we go into safety stuff. Two questions on the pause. Do we want to specifically go into any sections and talk about those because there's a lot here, or do we want to clarify any of the earlier stuff? Or do I just keep yapping? Okay, keep yapping. We use
Well,
deliberate. Oh, yeah.
no, I was just gonna go back to my first question, but we can save that for the end. Oh, Brad has
Okay.
a hand up.
Brad.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, do you have any theories on the RL or the training with the tool use? Do you think it's this RL VR, and is this going to be similar for what they're going to do with O5?
O5. Oh shit. GPT-5, you mean? GPT-5. They're supposed to merge them. It's no longer just a reasoning model. That's the leaks, apparently. I think, yeah, they do standard, GRPO, GSPO, all that stuff. But no, they don't say stuff. I think it's pretty here they're showing they can do vanilla stuff. They probably do vanilla stuff, right? But they don't share this. The difference is these are you know, hybrid model. No, these are reasoning only models. They're not hybrid models. You can't turn off the reasoning mode. You have reasoning low, medium, high. You don't have no reasoning. These are reasoners only. GPT-5 is rumored to be a hybrid model, like similar to how Claude has reasoning thinking on and off. There's no reason off mode in this, right? So kind of different. Do with that what you will. We'll see tomorrow if they really merge them or they don't. Or maybe we don't see tomorrow, but apparently tomorrow 10 a.m. live stream. Talk on the street 5 will be many models encapsulated into one, like deep research with a router, but time will tell. That's the other part of this, right? Like this thing is trained to use these tools, right? Like it's trained in its chain of thought. Oh, also they use Harmony format internally for authoring stuff. That's it. I mean, the guy told me. Here they train in stuff like this, right? So it's trained to know what a browsing tool, a Python tool, and stuff like this is. That you can probably expect is the same in O3. But then there's also just the API side, right? Like they do have different API models for deep research. But yeah, that's speculation. I think keep speculation in chat if it's always fun to speculate, right? This was a fun section that I like. We use deliberate alignment to teach models to refuse. Oh no, this wasn't the section I like. The next section is the adversarial stuff. Basically, this is where they teach it refusals, robustness, they test some of that stuff. I'm going to start going a little quick through this. One of the most useful properties is downstream models can modify They have that hierarchy. First, could adversarials find, oh, this is the fun stuff. So we investigate 2 additional questions. Could adversarials actors fine-tune the 120B to reach high capability in biological, chemical, or cyber domains? Simulating potential actors of an attacker. This is crazy. We created an internal adversarial fine-tuned versions of the 120B for these 2 categories, which we are not releasing. We concluded that even with robust fine-tuning, they don't reach high capability or cyber risk. The section on this is cool, where they show like how crazy they went. What else? Our preparedness results. Okay, second, would this significantly advance the frontier of biological capabilities? There already exists other stuff, right? So in this section, they talk later, like, okay, guys, Kimmy is out, DeepSeek is out. This thing is like, not significantly better when fine-tuned. People online are saying that safety slapped too hard, but yeah. Okay, disallowed content. This is pretty straightforward, right? They don't want. And categories, self-harm, personal stuff. I'm going to go through this quick. We don't want this. We further evaluate robustness to jailbreaks, strong reject. The interesting note here is they generally perform similarly to O4 Mini with jailbreak stuff, but the instruction hierarchy is where you can get it cooked. So they taught the model to adhere to instruction hierarchy, right? I don't know if people find this interesting, but we can go deeper into it, or you should read it on your own, I guess. In this Harmony format, once again, they have this like, system prompt always trumps developer and this and that and user request. So they train that in. There it is. They train that in and then they test it, right? So the model must choose to follow instructions in the system prompt. So one aspect of this is see if you can extract the exact system prompt. The second one is prompt injection, right? So user tries to basically make the model say access granted, and the system message tries to stop the model from doing that. Here, the 20B, the local OSS model, this is where these models start to lag behind the O4 Mini. This was kind of interesting, right? O4 Mini, you try extracting system prompt, 0.99% failure, like it's keeping it. Prompt injection, like it's very high. But the other ones, this is a step down in both. Prompt injection, like it's failing a little bit. And then the 20B, like you're cooked here. It can be prompt injected pretty easily. Which is, a little odd. Like if you have a local model browsing the web that's connected to your terminal and your laptop, that can be prompt injected by shit on the web, you're kind of cooked. So, don't use it. I'm kidding. What else? What else? In other set of evaluations, we instruct the model to not output this. They talk about their methodology of how to do that. We set 100% password protection. It's very good. We observed that we observed that GPT 120B and 20B generally underperform O4 mini in our instruction hierarchy evals. More research is needed to understand why this is the case. We make 2 notes here. They perform strong on the performance on strong reject jailbranch evaluation is about on par with O4 mini. This means that they're relatively robust to known jailbreaks, but aren't as strong at preventing users from overriding system messages as O4 mini. Practically, this may mean that developers may be less able to prevent a jailbreak in the models by using system messages mitigation than OpenAI is able to. So basically, system message, you got to be a little more careful here. That doesn't mean that you can't just have like a better system, right? Like if you can have some latency, just have another model check input and be like, hey, is this evil? If it is, just block it there, right? You don't have, this is specifically measuring the system message robustness. And apparently it's not as good as O4 mini, but yeah, interesting. We don't know why. That being, it could just be a thing of size. It could be a lot of stuff. That being said, developers are able to fine tune both of them to be more robust. And this was like an interesting thing, right? They're like, we can still release it. People can fine tune more safety if they want. Everyone's like, you fine tune too much safety. OpenAI, it's like, yeah, you can fine tune more safety if you want. It's okay, we'll release it. What else? Hallucinated chain of thought. This comes out of joint research with like Anthropic and stuff that models hide their real motive and chain of thought sometimes. Like chain of thought thinking can go haywire. So we found that models could learn to hide thinking while still misbehaving if their chain of thoughts were directly pressured against having bad thoughts. More recently, we joined this paper with other labs. They involved quite a bit of other people in their safety testing. Since I'm running short on time, I'm going to start going through faster. And then here, this is where they say developers should not directly show chain of thought to users of their applications without filtering, moderation, or summarization of this content. And I was like, I asked someone, I was like, hey guys, you do this already. Like, can we expect Llama Guard or Purple Llama? And he's like, soon. So soon they'll put out the moderation model. They already have moderation. Or maybe they don't, and the guy was just like, who knows. Hallucinations, they do hallucination evals, fairness and bias preparedness framework. This is interesting. Adversarial training. So this was the fun section, like going crazy, right? So malicious actors can still fine tune. We created adversarial fine tunes of this from 2 categories of biological and chemical. This was a fun section. We simulate an adversary who is technical, has access to strong post-training infrastructure and ML knowledge, can collect in-domain data for harmful capabilities, and has a large budget of compute. There is a large design space of technical approaches this adversary could try. We focus on incremental RL, which we believe is the most apt technical approach. We use our internal OpenAI O-series RL training stack, which adds more new capabilities while preserving the model's reasoning behavior. During this training and evaluation, we use the highest reasoning set of the biggest setting on the models. This is basically like, okay, we're worried about biological and chemical capability. Let's simulate a smart guy that can do OpenAI RL with a lot of compute and like, let's just fuck it. Let's make a bioweapon. Our approach, which is further detailed in a research paper. I don't know if this is like a research paper that comes out later, but I didn't find this approach in this research paper, unless they're just referring to the sections below. But it would be cool if they release a paper that's like, making bio GPT chemical killer 5. Helpful only training, minimizing this. We incrementally train it on web browsing and trained it incrementally with in-domain experts on relevant bio risk, da 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 da. They do all this stuff and then they conclude that nope, it's still not high capability of biological or chemical cyber risk. External safety, they talked to a bunch of people, Meter, Secure Bio, Daniel King. They give early stuff. They host a 1 hour Q&A session with authors and methodology. 22 recommendations were submitted. We acted on 11 of them, including 9 of 12 items they labeled as high urgency. They summarized what they did, what were the things. So capability findings, this is more of the bio stuff. Would it do this? This is that like key thing I hinted on earlier, right? So to investigate, so basically the framework wants to ask, would they significantly advance frontier of hazardous biological capabilities in open source foundation models? To investigate this question, we compare it to other open source models, primarily DeepSeek. Partway through our process, Qwen3 Thinking and Kimi K2 were released. We added those to the comparison set. These evaluations confirm that Qwen3 and Kimi K2 have advanced to a level such that the 120B does not significantly advance state-of-the-art on biosecurity relevant evaluation. Now, I haven't thought about this before, but maybe this is when they're like, okay, they weren't gonna release a 120B or something because it was too smart compared to current OS, because they don't know DeepSeek, right? They're like, okay, it's better than DeepSeek. We can't release it. We're cooked. Then they delay the launch because Quen and Kimi come out, and they're like, honestly, Quen and Kimi can do this too. Fuck it, let's give them the big move. This is speculation. I haven't thought about this till right now, but who doesn't like stirring up drama? Okay, I'm gonna skip a lot of this stuff. It's cool to see what the notes that other people said were, those 12 things. AI self-improvement, pass out one. How does it do on OpenAI PRs? Paper bench. Oh my God, guys, they beat us to it. Fucking, we need to launch paper bench for paper club. 8,000 gradable tasks. We measure 10 paper subset of paper bench. Anything else fun here? Appendix 2. Oh, this was the recommendation. Clarify model threat risk categorization, strengthen eval reliability, improving eval setup. Here's what they didn't expect. Higher quality agent scaffolding measure. So test it as a best of n higher quality scaffold. They're like, fuck that. Eliminate protocol QA from the threshold. It's still unique safety signal. Why remove it? It leaves a gap. Closed versus open refusal. Compute combined performance using closed models where non-refusal responses are substituted, treating refusals as 0. Da, 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 da. Okay, that's the thing. That's paper, guys. We did it. We have 3 minutes left to spare. I'm gonna check chat real quick. But if you have stuff, hop in. If you want tea. Lillian Wang did a workshop on something. What did she do a workshop on? Adversarial training? Oh, I think adversarial stuff is fun. Like there's Anthropic and some other lab has shown that bro, you can make these models completely uncensored. Okay. Cool. Other questions, thoughts, comments on paper? Sorry, this was kind of waste. I read this last night. There's not that much in here. But always fun to see nuggets. I will probably not be doing the GPT-5. I don't think it's that important. What's my answer to residual size? I said someone else answer that. Someone else answer residual size. It's good homework. You have one question. Why is the residual stream what it is? Why is that the first thing they say?
Oh, Vincent has a hand up.
I don't know if it's about this. No pressure.
They
But
mentioned Griffin at the end. Like, what the hell is Griffin? Go right to the end.
I think it's OpenAI Griffin. They've talked about this. I can change tabs real quick.
They mentioned the card, but there's like no citation of it. So I'm just like, you could tell it's some weird internal code name for something that always gets me curious.
True, true, true. Is it Google Griffin architecture? Griffin.
Yeah, just
don't-
ask in case someone magically knew. I'll do some search.
Small LM is llama-based dense model, so the amount of active params comparison you made makes sense. Yeah, I mean, they're the same thing. Anyway, I didn't wanna hate on, um, small LM. They're cool. Okay, what's your answer to residual stream? Someone has given an answer. The residual stream dimension 2880 is the evolving state of each token across layers. It's not actual size. Large models like GPT and Llama use even higher dimensions. Residual connections improve gradient flow and lead to a smoother, more stable loss surface, especially in deep networks. GPT open source stores all tokens in this stream, and each layer adds to it without changing its state. Oh shit, that's a pretty good answer. A lot of this is about stability of training. Even like a little cool softmax trick they do. Um, honestly, there's pretty good breakdowns on Twitter about this. Yeah, where is it? Where is it? Each attention head has a learned bias in the denominator of the softmax. Similarly, all one-off by attention saying all this stuff. People have done cool tweet threads of this, but a lot of it is stability training curves. Similar to how Kimi K2 had that beautiful little loss curve. They do some cool stability stuff too. Yes, Griffin. Someone has shared a paper. Griffin mixing gated linear resources. It might be referring to this paper.
Be another one of those like, why didn't you cite me sort of things on on Twitter. Okay, guarantee.
I don't think people are that salty. See if he cited, if he's not cited, get cooked. Paper bench. Okay, any other thoughts, questions? Maybe it's not this, right? I mean, maybe it'll get updated and cited. Like, I don't think we should give so much hate for missing citations at time, right? Like, they'll update it if it's real. Okay, fun yap, guys.
This was Epic Vibu. So next week is it what, Quen image?
Yes,
What I see
Quen
from the
image.
Discord chat. Sweet.
Quen image. We have a volunteer that will take us through Quen image. Um, GPT-5 might have a thing tomorrow if that happens. But yeah, cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.